folks, I'm just going to be blunt. Go back and look at the campaign finance reports for everyone involved. $250,000 was spent to get 4,000 people out to go vote.
It's crazy.
That is dumb.
Yeah.
That's not just silly. That's not just problematic. That is dumb.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Wayne County Chambers podcast, For the Record. We want to say a special thank you to our sponsors. Our title sponsor, Sport Durst of Goldsboro. Our premier sponsor, Atlantic Casualty Insurance Company. Our presenting sponsors, Professional Data Management, Goldsboro Builder Supply, and UNC Physicians Network. And our community sponsors, Butterball and the Housing Authority of the City of Goldsboro. And for the record, we're glad you're here.
All right. Well, what's up, friends?
Hi.
Man, it's good to be
morning.
here, Scott.
Man, your faces, it's good to see them.
It's been too long.
I know.
I've seen your face on Instagram catching some fish lately.
Yeah, I did catch a fish.
Congratulations.
It's a real fish and everything.
And even in the heat, they don't bite when it's hot.
I know. And it was a trout, and it was a big trout.
How big?
It was 22 inches.
Nice.
Not that we were counting, but
What?
you know,
Not counting.
It was a keeper, but we didn't keep it. If that makes
It does.
sense.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Anytime where I can look at something other than these walls, I accept. You know what that's all about.
They're nice
I do.
walls, though. They're nice walls.
I think they're handsome.
They are
Very handsome.
highly manicured.
So for the folks who may not know who you are, could you guys give us just a quick introduction? Just name, just a little bit about you, kind of, what do you do with your life?
I'm going to begin by introducing this one sitting to my right.
Yeah.
This is
Always the gentleman.
the lovely and talented Sarah Gaylor, my wife, my confidant, my rock, the mother of my son, the person who keeps me grounded. So I'll let her kind of start with that, and then I'll come back to me if there's time.
I'm sure there'll be time. So I'm Sarah Gaylor. This guy's wife. We've lived in Goldsboro, or I've lived in Goldsboro now for a little over 10 years. But I was I was actually born here, if you can believe it.
You were born in Goldsboro?
I was born in Goldsboro. My family lived in Beulahville.
Oh, nice.
There was no hospital there, so they came to Goldsboro. And when I was about 6 months old, we moved to Sanford. So that's where I was raised. Met this guy in college, and we moved back in 2014 to Goldsboro, and 2013.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a bachelor's and a master's in accounting, and I am an internal auditor for Johnston County. So
Man.
kind of know the inner workings of county government, which is lots of fun. I've done the Big Four accounting thing, the nonprofit accounting thing, so sort of settled in there. It's been a really good place for me. Yeah,
That's cool.
We have a son, Charlie, who's 6. Keeps us busy.
The personality in the room.
Yeah.
He's a wild man.
He is.
He's a lot
He
of
is.
fun. He's at theater camp right now, so he's always the performer. Yeah.
He's going to come back with some things.
Oh, you know it. I can't wait.
Whatever song
Some
they're
tricks.
singing, we're going to hear on repeat for the next couple weeks.
We will
good.
know it by heart.
That's good.
Yes.
All right.
And I'm Charles Gaylor. I am a healthcare attorney with actually the largest clinically integrated healthcare network in the state of North Carolina. And I promise you, none of your viewers care about that. I'm also the mayor of the city of Goldsboro, which about half of your viewers may care about that. So
Right.
that's the part I'll kind of talk about. But yeah, I'm Charles Gaylor, grew up here in Goldsboro, born here in Goldsboro, and actually former chairman of the Chamber of Commerce right here. It's getting me back in this office. I really do like how you kind of reorganized it and made it your own.
Your picture's on a wall in there.
It is. It is.
And your dad's too.
My dad's is also on that. Yeah, it's wild how if your family sticks around long enough and puts itself out there, all of a sudden you find yourself doing some things. Takes a little bit of bravery, but nonetheless. So I'm a graduate of Eastern Wayne High School. Go Warriors. and then NC State, where I got a couple of bachelor's degrees, and then a master's from Campbell University and a law degree from Elon University. I'm a practicing attorney with the aforementioned healthcare network, whose name we'll leave out of this for right now. And then earlier this year, well, actually December last year.
Said exactly like a lawyer.
Yes. We'll leave them out of this. I think they're trying to avoid. I think they're kind of curious. Like, who's this guy again?
Go ahead. My bad.
But then this past December, I was sworn in as the mayor of our great city. I was a city councilman in District 5 right before that. So.
Yeah. And how old are you?
I am now 40.
40 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sarah, how old are you?
You don't ask a lady.
I'm
just kidding. I'm 36.
36.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We met
Babies.
Oh,
yeah. He was
How old are
the
you,
old
Scott?
man when we
I
met.
just turned 44.
Congratulations, man.
Well,
4th of July.
yeah.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm feeling it. I'm in my feels. I'm in my 44 feels, because 44 rounds up to 45, just so everybody knows.
You're mid 40s now. You're mid 40s.
That's right. I can't say I'm young 40s.
I realize we're changing subjects here, but so are you feeling it in your joints? Are you feeling it in
I'm
your heart?
feeling it in my heart.
In your heart.
My little
Your
tiny
voice just
tiger
cracked
heart.
there.
Yeah, I almost cried right here, right now. But
Oh, that started early. Hadn't even gotten to the hard part yet.
yeah, so 40 years old, mayor of the city of Goldsboro. That's wild.
It is. It is.
Wow. Huh. So you grew up in Goldsboro. You did. Mm-hmm. And you were born in Goldsboro. You grew up in Sanford. But let's talk about Goldsboro, childhood in Goldsboro for a second, because, everybody, if you talk to folks who grew up here, they always have memories, they have things that stood out. What are some of the memories for you? I mean,
So I grew up. My parents, fortunately, are still right next to the old Union Station. That's where they live and where I grew up. And I just remember it being such a unique thing for me. And you may touch on this in your own. I had grandparents from both of my parents here in Goldsboro. So I had my mother's parents over on Madison Avenue, right next to Madison Avenue Baptist Church. And then I had my dad's mother, who was actually a former council member herself. She was the first female on Goldsboro City Council. She was over on Park Avenue. And so I was allowed, somewhat begrudgingly, but nonetheless, I was allowed to ride my bike and go over to Madison Avenue or Mildred Gaylor, her house. I could kind of come and go as I pleased as long as it was light out. And of course, since I got there, I was expected to call. Okay, cool. But it was fascinating, and that was just such a
different
rare treat.
times.
Yeah, it was such a rare treat because who gets to have all their my paternal grandfather had passed. Yeah. But other than that, who gets to have 3 of their 4 grandparents all within a bike ride of their house growing up?
Not me. Mine all grew up. Both my parents are from New Bern, so all my grandparents were in New Bern. So that to me is totally foreign, but something that I love about raising our son here is having grandparents so close.
Yeah. But I remember growing up in Goldsboro, and who remembers Derelibration? Do you remember Derelibration?
I was never here for Derelibration.
All right. So I'm
heard a lot about it, though.
Well, and it was always this fun Center Street Festival kind of thing. I'm pretty sure the powers that be said, okay, let's stop making the railroad mad at us annually. Let's just stop dancing on that one for a minute. But nonetheless, it was just a fantastic celebration of Goldsboro kind of taking its own fate into its own hands there for a minute. But that was always wonderful. Goldsboro Country Club and that whole entity was still very much a thing. And Wednesday nights out there, grew up in First Baptist Church right there on John Street. Wednesday night, church nights and boys and girls.
Who were your Sunday school teachers? Do you remember?
Well, one, but if I say her name, that's going to put a date on there. But
she might not love that.
But just know the United Way is in fantastic hands. We'll just leave that there.
So Sherry Archibald was your Sunday school teacher?
One of.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
She's aged none.
Yeah.
She is the exact same in sweetness, in passion, in energy, in appearance. The exact same as I remember her as a boy.
Yeah.
And that is a huge compliment because she's always been one of the best people.
Yeah.
So
good human.
A wonderful human. Wonderful, wonderful human. So yeah, that's my upbringing here in Goldsboro was surrounded by a small but nonetheless very dedicated family, having some cousins around as well. and a wonderful church that I grew up in, being able to move around the city and go visit family. It was always a wonderful time.
So what was different about Sanford? I mean, than what you've experienced, I guess, in Goldsboro? I mean,
honestly, they're very similar.
Yeah.
Sanford has grown a lot because of its proximity to the Triangle. But at the time, it was a good bit smaller than Goldsboro. Not having any grandparents there was different, although we saw my grandparents a lot. We got burned up the road back and forth to New Bern. But we sort of created our own family in Sanford. I mean, I remember very many Christmases once my parents decided we don't want to travel Christmas Day every year with small kids. I mean, there was a group of us, I think it was 3 or 4 families that every Christmas Day we got together.
Wow.
Really, I grew up in First Baptist in Sanford, something that we have in common. And kind of creating our own community without family there. So it was a very different situation than Charles had in Goldsboro, but very, very tight knit, very close community, and really just a lot of the same things. I mean, playing in the neighborhood till the streetlights came on, riding bikes, walking to my friend's house down the street, all those things that are a little different than they are today. But I would say we have very similar upbringings in a lot of ways.
Kind of small town, Eastern North Carolina,
Right.
Same vibe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you've probably heard this. You know the only difference between a Methodist and a Baptist, right?
Different corners.
Methodists will talk to you in the liquor store.
I knew it. I wasn't going to say it.
It's so true.
Sorry.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys,
Baptist pretends they don't see you.
yes, allegedly.
So I've been told.
So
Read it on Reddit.
Yeah. So you guys, you grew up, you went to state
Yeah.
together, and that's where you tell us about how you met.
Go
You
for
want,
it.
you want my version?
I want to hear your version.
So my version is I was towards the end of my undergraduate experience as I was actually on a victory lap. And for those of y'all that don't know what that means, I was finishing up a double major. And so I had an extra year, just some classes that I needed to finish up. So yeah, I was in my 5th year at
He's
state, right?
bragging. This is him bragging right
Yeah,
now.
that's just a part
I
of the
was
humble
just
brag.
finishing my double major.
Yeah, so it is what it is.
The man did 10 years of advanced degrees.
Let's don't talk about that.
Yeah.
So did a few things, and I was actually part of the College of Textiles at NC State. That's how I got into the whole body armor and composite materials shtick that you and I have talked about in the past, but we were not going to get into today because it's very nerdy, but a lot of fun. And one of the other large textile schools on the Eastern Seaboard is Clemson. Well, the Clemson and NC State annual football game, a group from Clemson's going to come to Raleigh, a group from NC State's going to go down to Clemson, whichever it was. So I was part of a group from the textile school that went down to Clemson. I had a bunch of friends with us, just a bus full of people, from the school. Had no idea that this one was on that bus. We were walking into the game. I looked back and someone is like stepped off the sidewalk and like sprained their ankle. And I was like, okay, come here. So a couple of us went back. I ended up kind of backpacking her around the rest of the day, including climbing to the top of
Death Valley.
Yeah, because they don't give opposing just because they allow you into the stadium,
Right.
and they don't give you the
you
tickets.
got to fend for yourself.
Yeah, and once you get there, you find out your ticket is at the very top of Death Valley, which is
quite a view,
It's a lovely view,
but a ways.
And so yeah. So,
Especially if you're backpacking a human.
Especially if you're backpacking a human. And but that ended up working out pretty swimmingly, I would say. So is that basically the story, or is there more to it?
No, you nailed it. I mean,
there you go.
Stepped off the sidewalk wrong and sprained an ankle. Turns out 8 years later, had to have it fully reconstructed. I'd blown everything out of it. But this guy sort of, I say, it was not my knight in shining armor.
You had so many other friends around. You had plenty of other options. This was not like a swoop in and rescue the damsel in distress kind of thing. You had loads of other people there that were your friends.
Plenty of suitors probably would have been willing to take on that task. Oh,
I wasn't going there.
I wasn't going to mention that, but it seemed like an appropriate time to just say that.
Thanks, Scott.
Well, and you left out, it was my 19th birthday, too.
Man.
So, it was my birthday. And to me, a freshman, I was like, I called my parents, this old guy helped
Yeah.
me out because at the time you were
4 years is the big difference
23,
when
I
you're
guess, and
that age,
That's right.
when you're 19, that feels a lot older. 6-hour bus ride back
Yeah.
to Raleigh, talked the whole time, and pretty much inseparable
Yeah.
ever since. That was almost 18 years ago. So
Yeah.
Man,
it's been a good ride so far.
we haven't been back to Clemson yet, have we?
We haven't. We need to.
Yeah.
We've been to a Clemson game at State.
Yeah.
But
it needs to happen. And
Yeah,
you
we're
need a
gonna have to do that.
backpacker to the top of
Exactly. Exactly.
now we get some looks.
Yeah.
just for old time's sake.
Totally still
Like,
got
don't
it.
mind us.
Totally
you know?
still got it.
Go State, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
State had a big run here.
It's a good time. One of the only.
I was going to say, it's been a good.
It's been a good couple years being a State fan.
Yeah.
Final
Well,
Four.
we're due. We're due.
You are due.
We've had to put in.
You guys have been
years.
intolerable, though, but I'm going to pray
Oh,
for
absolutely.
you. But, you know,
Yeah,
it's just part of it.
we go through a lot. Yeah.
That's true.
State fans, generally speaking, earn their allegiance. They
That's
don't
true.
go and purchase their allegiance
true.
in the same way.
You take
And
the
some of
win
us-
when you can.
It's a grind.
Some of us, like, I didn't go to Duke, but I'm a Duke fan, you know, so. You didn't say it, but it's been said, you know.
We have a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and money
Yeah.
in that school, and so
I get
we'll
it.
take the wins where we
Well,
can
and
get
Dad's
them.
a Carolina fan.
Huh.
And graduate. He's
Okay.
a Carolina undergrad in Carolina law. Actually,
And just for the record, who is your dad?
my dad actually Widener Law.
Widener Law.
Correct. Dad is Charlie Gaylor. Also was an attorney here in Goldsboro, and then joined the bench. Became Judge Gaylor in 2008. I think it was 2008. And so yeah, Judge Gaylor is the dad.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how I know him.
Yeah.
I don't call him any other thing. I
Judge
call
Gaylor.
him Judge Gaylor. You know, that's how I refer to him.
What's funny, we have Judge Charlie Gaylor, and then we have our son Charlie Gaylor, and it gets confusing at times. And so our Charlie will always say, "Can you just say Granddaddy?" So I know you're not talking about me. So
That's right.
we have to call him Granddaddy now,
That's good.
which he loves.
So now you're married. You're older. You're wiser. Let's talk about,
More
before
gullible.
we get into some of the other things. What is a fun date night for you guys? Like, what's a go-to that you youngsters these days get into?
Kids these days, from what I'm told, look, and again, I'm not going to dominate this conversation, but our running joke has always been that we could be just as happy at Roost Chris or on our own sofa with a bottle of $2 Chuck and a Tombstone. And anyone right now who's trying to have a conversation with themselves about if they've met someone that they enjoy being around or not, if you can say that, then you're probably pointed in the right direction.
And when you say Tombstone, you mean Tombstone Pizza?
Yes.
Tombstone Pizza, not the movie, although that's fine too.
What a
but,
great movie.
But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll take that. Although we've been real into Maverick and Avatar lately because
'Cause of the
that's
kid.
what Charlie.
Highly edited versions, but I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
yeah,
But yeah.
Well,
What about
and
you?
I would say, we've talked about this a lot, that I could name several places we'd enjoy going, but honestly, with our schedules, sometimes we're a bit like ships passing in the night, and so anywhere we can go and just actually have a conversation, and sometimes have a conversation about us and about family and about goals, and not necessarily about work and the things we have to do, logistics and that kind of thing, but just actually get back to the true, real conversations.
Right.
That's a great date night for us.
So, I'm interested. The marriage question. You said like two ships passing in the night, and I would think that that's probably true for a lot of couples and a lot
Absolutely.
of
I
families,
think so.
that are trying to navigate this, season of life where they're in the thick of it, right?
Right.
You're in the middle of your careers. You're in the middle of, raising children.
Yep.
How do you guys navigate that? Is there a strategy? Is there how does that work?
I think that it has evolved dramatically over the last couple of years. I will tell you that just in the last 6 months, it's evolved even more. You read about the sociological impacts of dinks and doinks, dual income, no kids, dual income, one kids, and the economic realities of that, as well as the societal impacts of that. And we are that. We are dual income, one kid. And Sarah is her own professional and has her own career. And in that regard, neither of us, I want to say this the right way. We rely on each other for things other than financial stability.
Absolutely.
If we don't need each other in that sense, we want each other in that. So I hope I phrased that the right way. I probably didn't. So
well, it's very much a partnership,
right?
And our relationship has always been a partnership. And I think that's one of the things with you being mayor now is a little bit of a struggle that we've had to work through, and I think we're doing that. A lot of people I think mayor is a part-time job. It's certainly kind of set up that way, but anybody who does mayor and does it well, it's not a part-time job. It's a full-time job. Mm-hmm. And then you also have an actual full-time job.
Right.
And I have a full-time job. And so, balancing those things is difficult. I think communication is key.
It is.
I think being able to say, hey, I don't like the way this week went. This was a crazy week. Let's try to do next week differently. I think having that communication, we've been together long enough. I think we're pretty good at that. We've established that. And then also we live and die by the Google Calendar. If it's not on the shared Google Calendar, it's not happening. And so being able to coordinate that way is really helpful.
It's so true, because you have to be able to communicate what you want and what you need. And there's going to be times where that I have a lot to give and you're cooked. Mm-hmm. And there's other times where that you have a lot to give and I'm cooked. And learning how and evolving as your stages of life evolve, learning how to communicate that respectfully and intentionally and clearly to, back and forth, I think is incredibly important.
Well,
excuse me.
And one of the best pieces of marriage advice I think we ever got, and it may have even been before we got married, was marriage is not 50-50.
Right.
Sometimes it's 80-20, sometimes it's 70-30. Sometimes one person's picking up the slack and sometimes another person is. And I think as long as we're communicating about that, we can work through pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think that's a shared challenge.
It is.
So it's interesting to hear you guys navigating that.
Well, and you've talked earlier about having some, very prominent, high-ranking Air Force officials, in this office and talking through them. It's that same conversation repackaged, isn't it? Anytime you have one or both people who are so highly engaged in the thing that they are called to do, for whatever chapter of their life they choose to do it. Yeah, it puts an incredible amount of substance then on the other person. And so you got to make sure you're clear with what you need and what you want. And if it's something that's attainable, because it's got to be a package deal.
Sport Durst Volkswagen Mazda of Goldsboro is proud to support Wayne County Chamber of Commerce. Family owned and operated, Sport Durst knows the importance of keeping local money local and supporting the community. We put our customers first with the area's best pricing, best trade-in value, and best selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. Come experience the Sport Durst difference, where customers and community come first.
Yeah. So how when did you know you wanted to go into politics? Honest answer. Don't give me the polished answer. I want to know the honest answer.
Spill the tea.
Were you 7? Were you?
No. No, not even close. Not even close. So I mentioned earlier, and I didn't bring this up a whole lot last year during the campaign because I didn't want folks to think that I was trying to campaign on family name or family brand necessarily. I was trying to kind of do it on my own merits, be that good or bad. I still haven't decided. My grandmother was on Goldsboro City Council. And so during my formative years, I got to hear a lot of opinions from her and a lot of different things from her about federal decisions or state decisions and how it would impact our street and our neighborhood. And so from a very young age, I did at least have it presented to me that all politics are local and that politics will impact your street. They will impact your neighbors. You got to understand how that connection flows. Now, there's other things you have to get into in the local that you don't. Nonetheless,
but public life and public engagement's kind of always been a cornerstone.
I at least knew it existed.
It's part of your culture, I guess.
And I was shown how to navigate it in a way. But as far as me having the desire to get involved myself, I more enjoyed the strategy of helping someone else. I didn't really want to be the person in the chair necessarily. And it wasn't until much further in my career, actually, when I was over at Quincy while I was an associate vice president over at Wayne Community College. 2015, those of you that know the history of the city know that there were some changes right around that time in our city government. And I was actually approached about would I be interested in pursuing a city council seat. And at the time I said, no, the time is really not right. You know, there were a couple others that were also approached, and ultimately good decisions for all were made in that regard. But it wasn't the right time. But that kind of got me curious of, well, if I was going to do it, how would I do it? And so had the conversation with Sarah, and we both agreed the time is not right now. The time may not ever be right, but we'll see. So I never really held on to this is something that I have to do one day. It never really was that, but it was always something that I was around. And then tragically, when Mayor Allen passed, or when he had to step away and passed, and then when Councilmember Ham became Mayor Ham, you know, I certainly had a very good rapport with each of those gentlemen. And then former Mayor King was one of the ones that actually, you know, talked to me about engaging more personally.
We just got news that Mayor King passed.
I know. I was at his funeral yesterday. You know, that was sad. What a life. What a life. If you're going to do it well. And that gentleman certainly did. So having them all kind of talking to me about this open seat and us having a conversation, it was a
few conversations.
Yeah.
And how does that work for you? Like, I mean, because it's coming to you, obviously this is going to require an adjustment or it requires something of you.
Absolutely.
That's different than a normal situation. So
right.
Take us through like what, you know, you're thinking, and how do you process that?
Right. Well, for him deciding to put his name in the ring, so to speak, for council, because that was an appointed seat. Charlie was maybe 2 at the time. So that was a big consideration, obviously, having a toddler at home. But that was, to be honest, I probably was a little naive at the time to know what the, requirements of that would be, what the time requirements of that would be. But that wasn't a huge conversation. If I kind of took the stance of, if that's something you feel led to do and feel like you could do a good job with, then absolutely go for it. The conversation to run for mayor was a little different.
It's a little different.
And Charles has given me the go ahead to be completely honest.
Yeah, because this is our first major sit down kind of interview, the both of us together, since doing this thing. Yeah. So I appreciate y'all giving us that opportunity. But we're going to be a little more candid in this conversation.
Okay. Well, we're here for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some major reservations about him running for mayor. And as we talked about with having pretty strong communication skills, voiced that, and told him, concerned about the time requirements. I'm concerned about the focus on our family. Doesn't matter how, if you're running a smaller local race or, a statewide race or, a federal race, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny, a lot of eyes on you. We do have a young child, and I was concerned about all of those things, and that was just the campaign part. And then once you kind of reach that finish line, if you win, which you did, then that brings on a whole other set of concerns. that I feel were valid and have proven to be very valid. But, you know, I love Charles and will always support him. And, you know, I have enough faith in him to know, one, he can do a good job and be a real leader for the city. I had no question about that. And also I have enough faith in him to know that if this is something that he truly felt led to do, felt in his heart that he was the one to do this, that we could make it work. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But to say that I was on board from the very beginning, no, probably not. But once we made the decision together for you to run, my words to him were, if we're doing it, let's do it. And let's win it.
Right.
All in, yeah.
Yep. So once we were in, we were all in.
Yeah, there was absolutely I never said yes until I had your
Right,
support.
absolutely.
But we definitely had to go through a process of getting there, because I'd said no, I'm not going to do it multiple times as well, because you know there's some that want to run because they want the platform. They have some. Maybe it's, I mean, let's just be honest, maybe it's ego, maybe it's some specific platform, whatever it is. I had a specific platform, but I already had a seat at the table. So I felt like I could move some things that I wanted to move from where I was. It wasn't until I realized that Mayor Ham, you know, was really considering other options. And of course, he's still very, very engaged in this community. He's a genuine guy, and we're so fortunate to have him. But he was looking at the future and his future, that I then started putting together the pieces of, okay, if we were to do this, here's how we would do it. Would we have this angle support? Would we have this angle support? Would we have this, you know, pocket of the community? How would we do it? And once we started putting those pieces together, said we can do this. It's there for the taking if we're fully committed. But I'm not going to do this without you. So and that at that point it was, yeah, let's do it. Let's win it, and let's go full bore. And good heavens, you know, we had an incredible amount of support. And I do realize that, yes, we won by like 6 votes, but the amount of work that goes into these things was just, it was wild.
Yeah, I think people dramatically underestimate what it takes to get the number of votes that, you know, were arrived at. I mean, to get people to show up and
it's so hard,
you know, pull a lever. I mean, the amount of time commitment, because how long was the campaign? You officially
filed in July.
Right.
But we started in January.
Yeah. Well, and prior to that, we started planning, because we officially did the finance paperwork December. Mm-hmm. But we already had stuff, you know, lined up as far as, you know, phone calls to who we were going to make. Well, obviously we never received any funds. I mean, that you don't do that until you actually get the stuff in place. But we had conversations around, would you be in my camp? Would you? And so all these pieces were starting to line up July, August prior to that. Mm-hmm. I mean, realistically, we probably did an 18-month campaign.
It was a long road.
Yeah.
It was a long road, a lot of months, a lot of hard work from a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of money from a lot of people, you know, fundraising and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And then you look at the turnout to vote, and between all the council seats, you know, and mayor, everyone who ran, not just, you know, who ended up on top, but everyone who ran, and you look at the amount of money that went into those races to get the turnout we did, it's frustrating. It's disheartening. And, but I'll tell you, it motivates me to work even harder to get out the vote. I mean, I'm not talking red or blue. I'm talking local politics. We got to do better.
Yeah. And you think, I mean, especially in some of these council seats, like for some of these council seats, I mean, 300 people, 200 people are making the decision. Right. But you said something to me a long time ago when I first met you. You were working for the Small Business Center.
Great organization.
Yeah. And I was thinking about going into business. And I didn't know you at the time. You didn't know me. And you made a statement that has stuck with me for a long time. You said that everybody underestimates what it takes to market your company, to market your brand. I would say that is absolutely true. And I would say in politics, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Because I think what was it? 6,000 people voted, 8,000 people voted. What was
Less
it?
than that.
It was about 10% of
the
registered voters in the city of Goldsboro.
So I don't remember off the top of my head, but I want to say that in the mayor's race, that if 4,200 people voted, then I'm not far off. I mean, It was out of this whole city.
Right. And there's 35,000, 36,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
And you got to assume that same 4,200, you got to assume that also encapsulates the people that voted in the council races.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Folks, I'm just going to be blunt. Go back and look at the campaign finance reports for everyone involved. $250,000 was spent to get 4,000 people out to go vote.
It's crazy.
That is dumb.
Yeah.
That's not just silly. That's not just problematic. That is dumb.
Yeah.
There's a better way to do this. I don't know if it's putting the elections in a presidential year, which I don't really support. I don't know what the answer is.
Sure.
But that is not sustainable.
Well, and I think it's probably, I don't want to wade too far into this, but I think it's just a general cultural engagement in public life and in issues for different reasons. We're just in a different world than maybe we once were, where you had to be more engaged.
Right.
And these days it seems like people are much more disengaged. And so I'm with you in the sense that I hope that over time we can get more people thinking about these things and hearing about these things, so that who knows, and
because who your mayor is and who your city council member is affects your day-to-day life in a lot of ways, way more than who your president is.
Yeah.
And trying to get people to understand that.
So you get rewarded with being mayor after 18 months of campaigning. I want to know the best part and the worst part.
I'm gonna start.
Go for it. You're in the seat.
Yay. The best part about it is being able to go into parts of this community and allow people to see the office. And I'm probably doing a terrible job of expressing the way that I'm trying to say this. Being able to take that office, yes, it's currently me in that office, but to be able to issue a letter from that office or a proclamation from that office and take it to an organization who has done a beautiful thing for our community, and to be able to recognize them on that scale, to be able to highlight things in our community that need work and are getting work. It's special. It's really, really special. You can talk about all the other pieces of it, of being able to help steer the future of the city. And yes, obviously those things are very, very real. But the way that I'm choosing to do that is by using the platform to positively reinforce organizations and behaviors that are moving our city in a really good direction, and then to call out those things that need adjustment, that need some work, and then try to direct resources towards those things. Government is not going to be the answer to every problem, but the community is. The community, be it the faith-based community, the nonprofit community, for-profit. We have some amazing corporate citizens, many of them which make up this chamber, worth noting.
Oh, absolutely.
And those so often are going to be the real answers to a lot of the community's challenges. And being able, if I send an email from my mayor's email address, it just hits different. And it's supposed to, because that office is supposed to have a little bit of respect. The people that have come before me have done a good job of ensuring that office has a little bit of respect. And I fully intend to leave it one day, whenever that is, even better than I found it, to where that if I'm emailing, the VP of Government Relations for Duke Energy, that oh, hey, Charles, good to see you again. Or if it's, a 4-star general with the Pentagon, hey, Mayor Gaylor, good to hear from you again. Each of our members of our federal delegation, state delegation, they know us, they know that office, and being able to use that to bring attention to the things that I think are the most critical, and then to offer support to those organizations that are trying so hard to help our community. That to me is the best part. Probably an unorthodox answer, but that's the part that I've certainly enjoyed.
Sort of like the head of government is also the head of state, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
in this case, the head of city. I mean, head of government's also head of city. It's like, there's a function that's a very important function for someone in that role. I think that you just really, said well, is that it does matter when the mayor says a thing or does a thing.
Right.
I mean, and I think it does bring an encouragement to people in a way that when you don't have that platform, you don't get the same chance to do. And so it is a very unique role.
Right.
And that's kind of cool. So the worst part, well, maybe I'll go to your best part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, I approach you a little differently, and you probably get this as a parent. Everything we do, to me, comes back to making it better for Charlie, to making it better for the next generation. Yeah. And so being able to not just sit back and look at what's happening in the city and saying, this, I like this or I don't like this, but actually taking some ownership of that and being able to put our family out there to actually make a difference, to actually affect some change, not for us, but for our son and for that future generation. I mean, we came back to Goldsboro because it's home. It's where your parents are. It's where we want to be around family. I would never force that on Charlie, but I sure hope that he wants to come back and be near us.
Right.
And so creating a place where he not only feels obligated to do that, but wants to do that. That to me is sort of hopefully, Charles in his position and our family as a whole can sort of move the needle a little bit to make Goldsboro even better for that next generation, because then it's better for everyone.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And the hardest part?
The hardest part about being mayor? The scrutiny.
Yes.
Nothing is more frustrating, I'm going to use that word, than having Charlie, when my time is already very, very strained, and having Charlie and going in somewhere to go grab a donut or go grab breakfast or something like that, and someone thinking that that's the appropriate time to come and vent to me about a thing. If you want to have a conversation, I'm all about it. I mean, I'm in this very public role for a reason. I want to help. But 10 or 15 minutes venting to me about a thing when I'm trying to have breakfast with my son might not be the opportune moment. Sure. And that is what is different about local politics, because you're always home. You don't get to leave Raleigh or leave DC and go back home and rejuvenate a little bit. I'm here. One of our other very strong members of our state delegation told me while I was campaigning, he said, I don't know how you do this. It's just different. He said, I get to kind of lob bombs, in the form of like flyers or mailers or text message campaigns. He said, what you're doing is hand-to-hand combat because you never get to leave. Right. And I said, yeah, you're right. And so what's hardest for me is ensuring that I still set aside the right amount of time for my wife, for my son, for my parents. We'll get into friends and the other stuff as we can, but making sure that I set aside the right amount of time to do the job, professionally, to do my job as well, and then look after my relationship with my son and with my wife. And so it is challenging when you're right here in the middle of it. And look, most times when I take Charlie out, or if Sarah and I are out somewhere, we may see folks that recognize them, we wave, and so please understand. I love when people say hello.
Most people are super friendly.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That is. I want to make sure I emphasize that. But you do have those moments where that then afterwards I have to explain to Charlie, why was that person, why did he say that? I'm like, that's not what this morning was supposed to be about. So it's a real thing. It's a real thing.
And you said scrutiny. I would imagine that would be difficult just in general because you don't ever run out of scrutiny.
No.
I mean, if you
that
think
is
about
a
it,
limitless resource.
It's just people are always prepared to be critical.
And keyboard commandos will absolutely find.
You could be doing 7,000 things right.
Yeah.
And there'll be 4 people out there who have really big megaphones.
Yeah.
And they'll say the worst things. I mean,
and when there's something that's off kilter, and I do this with our other state and federal delegation when I'm talking to folks. If there's a policy issue that I firmly disagree with, they know, especially if it's something that impacts our city. Because either way, it's going to impact the people. They know, but the conversation will still be an old way. Hey, how's your daughter doing? Is summer camp going well? Because these are people.
That's right, humans.
They're humans.
Yeah.
And you hope that they're doing it for the right reasons. And there's some that you know really well and that you know they are doing it for the right reasons. You may disagree with them on a policy thing, but you respect them as people. Then there are some, honestly, that you kind of do question their motives. But that's a different issue. And it's just important to know the folks that you're working with. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. And Sarah, the hardest part for you?
I mean, just to kind of piggyback off of that, absolutely the scrutiny. I'm very protective of my people. And so, to sit there and listen to people say things about a person that I know very intimately and very well for a number of years, I know his heart and I know how kind and selfless he is. And I know that he is only doing this because he truly cares about this community. To then have people say, he's in it for the money or to enrich himself or, he only cares about himself or he doesn't care about the citizens of Goldsboro. For someone who doesn't know him at all to say those things, that's very hard for me. And then to feel like in my position, you can't really say anything bad.
Right.
I'm not going to get behind the keyboard. I'm not going to get into the comments, but to see those things or hear those things from people who don't know him when I do know him, that's very hard. I guess the mama bear in me comes out a little bit, but the scrutiny is tough. And then of course, like we've talked about, just the balance, the time. We've had to really work on quantity over quality with our time that, when you're here, you're here. And that it's okay if you're not home every single night for bedtime, but when you are, be here, and Charles does a good job with that. But
phone has to go somewhere else and the Apple Watch has to come off.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that you are where you are.
To be present.
Yeah.
It's true. It's good advice, I think, too. So looking ahead, you talked about a future that'd be great for your son and that being a huge purpose for you.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a huge purpose for a lot of us that are in any public life.
I know it's why you're doing what you do.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
It's just that's the kind of stuff that lights some of us up. And when you look out and we think about the future of Goldsboro, what do you see? Like, what are the opportunities? What are the things that get you fired up?
Man, we're in such a good spot. I have to kind of temper my expectations because I want people to understand that what I'm saying is realistic and not just, euphoric, because we have major problems. I mean, the amount of gun violence that has happened this summer alone in the city of Goldsboro, all right, that deserves headlines, and it's getting it. We've called attention to it. Yeah. We're doing major changes in the way that we police to get around it. We're also going to do some other things that I've got to work through council first. So I'm not going to go public on those at this time. But our city overall has got some phenomenal opportunities in front of it. Now, I'm a data guy. You can look at the census data. You can look and see where our county and our city, where we are. We own census data, and on population data. I get this. We, for the last probably decade, have been a shrinking city. Our population has been declining. I get that. One, I think that's going to reverse
quickly
this year.
Yep.
And between now and 4 years from now, you're going to see an incredible amount of industry and commercial enterprises invest in Goldsboro and in Wayne County. The partnership that we are building with Wayne County and the Wayne County Development Alliance and the Eastern Global Transpark Economic Development, GTP EDR, that one, and those professionals, it's strong. We bicker like cats and dogs, but it's for the right reasons. And what we are trying to do is really some kind of novel stuff that provides incentives to get people right into Park East and right into the Goldsboro Business Campus, and how we tax that and how we recruit in that and what are the things we expect in that and how do we reach out to other large commercial developers like the folks that operate the mall and some of the other large shopping centers. It's a good time. It's a good time. Now we've got to get some foundational things right. We've got to get crime under control. We've got to have more opportunities for youth. We've got to do
infrastructure.
Infrastructure. But again, infrastructure we can fix. That you just have to understand the math about. That piece we can fix. The political will's there. It's a matter of understanding the math and understanding the right pathway forward.
Sure.
So that folks that are on Goldsboro's system right now don't end up having their rate shifted. There's a lot of complexities to it, but it's math. It can be worked out. Larger societal challenges are crime, poverty, homelessness. Those are things that we're going to have to address and keep under control, because the only thing that would stop Goldsboro from having an absolute boom over the next few years in form of industry and commercial development would be us not having the political will to resolve some things. Now, fortunately, myself and this council has been very committed to addressing homelessness and addressing violent crime and supporting our first responders across the board, and has made some major investments. Those are wonderful things. But I think that I just think we're in such a great place right now. Interstate development, rail development,
just transportation
there's
has been
so many positive things that are staring us in the face. We just got to make sure that we keep our foot on the gas.
So, you've got an opportunity. If you could say something to the people of Goldsboro, just to encourage them and motivate them wherever they may be or whatever they may be thinking, whatever season they're in, what is a message you would share with them?
I would tell everybody, because right now the biggest thing that people are focusing on, for good reason, I think is criminal behavior and blight in certain parts of the city. And what I would say is make sure that your council member knows and make sure that I know. The police want to help. Council wants to help. Mayor's office and manager's office wants to help. And we are more than ever willing to be aggressive to move things along. And we are fully committed. We're fully in this thing. And when I see the amount of housing units that are working their way through planning, and I see the commercial and industrial things that are working their way through the Industrial Alliance right now, the future just looks so strong.
Good news about the base, at least for
the base. The base is great. Is in a really good spot. Now, again, I'm gonna harp on that just for a second.
Uh-oh.
I'll be brief.
Okay.
A brief harping, if you will.
Okay.
Piece of information was missed about when the timing was going to be for the dissolution of one of the squadrons. All of a sudden, everyone looks around and goes, our state delegation, did you know? No. Our Friends of Seymour Partner, did you know? No. City of Goldsboro, did you know? No. Our paid DC consultants, hey, did you know? No. We're all looking around and going, how? Governor's office, did you know? No. Everyone's looking around and going, what just happened? And immediately everyone rallied.
Together.
Bingo. Bingo. The strength of that network was instant and was put on display for everyone to see how
Bipartisan.
quickly we got a bipartisan, bicameral response.
Federal, state, local. I mean, it really has been an impressive, 6 or 8 months or whatever it is. I mean, because the chamber's role in that has been pretty consistent as far as the military affairs and Friends of Seymour and things like that, kind of the private side, if you will.
Sure. Very powerful.
And that was critical, no doubt. But to have all of our elected leaders, I'm talking from bottom to top, just kind of watching them kind of get to lockstep.
Yep.
It is so rare to see that these days. And it was very encouraging.
The strength of that network.
Refreshing.
Yeah.
Very refreshing.
The strength of that network fully getting engaged, because everyone, it's easy to throw shades and say, you should have known. Well, I agree. We should have known. And so immediately finding out why didn't we, and then working to resolve that, and then immediately allowing the strengths of your relationships to come together. Look, we're in a really good spot. We're in a really good spot.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right. Well, what motivates you? You wake up, both of you. What do you wake up motivated by these days?
Well, for me, that's easy, and we've touched on it. I mean, I think, like I said, as a parent, everything we do is for our kids, and whether that's just the day-to-day, going to work and, seeing family, seeing friends. Sometimes it's making it through the day. Sometimes it's really exciting things that we get to do. But at the end of the day, just trying to make our community and our world in general, better for the next generation. Right. I mean, that is truly the goal. So that's what motivates me.
For me, it's twofold. One, I really don't like letting people down. Folks that I genuinely care about, and I know genuinely care about me, I really don't like letting them down. And I will always be my own harshest critic, probably to a fault. And so the motivation a lot of times will stem from, I don't want to embarrass them. They stood up for me. I do not want to let them down. And that's a big driving factor for me, no doubt. And then the flip side of that is that there's some other things that I'm genuinely excited about in the city of Goldsboro. I'm genuinely excited about the work that we have coming with some of the roads around Goldsboro and rail infrastructure. Is weird and long term. It's hard to get overly excited about something that may take a year to develop, but so the simple fact that it's in a budget, it's progress.
Yeah, sure.
And so, those things do energize me, and trying to make sure that the folks know about it and that they can get a little bit excited about it too. Yeah. That's the goal.
Well, thank you guys for your service, and thank you for all that you do, and thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.